We had the perfect life in our quiet Austin suburb. Or so I thought. I was a stay-at-home dad to our two beautiful kids, and my wife Sarah was a brilliant executive. But everything I believed was shattered by one accidental discovery: a second phone hidden in her car. What began as a flicker of suspicion unraveled into a full-blown financial crime investigation, revealing a secret life so cold and calculated it still chills me to the bone. How can the person you love most be a complete stranger? This isn't just a story of betrayal, it's about how I turned the tables on a master manipulator. You will not believe the ending. Listen to discover the shocking truth and the ultimate revenge she never saw coming. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, go ahead and give it a like. It really helps me out. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks a bunch. The life I knew ended with a low buzz, the kind of sound a phone makes when it's been forgotten. It was vibrating against the metal seat rail of my wife's car, tucked so far under the passenger seat that I only found it because our son, Leo, had thrown his blue T-Rex down there for the 100th time. I was fishing around for it, my fingers brushing against dusty floor mats and fossilized goldfish crackers, when I felt it. A slim, cold rectangle. Not her phone. Her phone was on the kitchen counter, where she'd left it before kissing me and the kids goodbye that morning. This was something else. You have to understand, we had the kind of life people put on Instagram to make other people feel bad. A sprawling modern house in a quiet suburb just outside of Austin, Texas. 2 incredible kids, a 6-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter. And Sarah, my Sarah, she was the sun our little family orbited around. A high-powered executive at her family's lucrative logistics firm, she was smart, ambitious, and devastatingly beautiful. I was the stay-at-home dad, a role I'd embraced after my own tech startup fizzled out. I handled the school runs, the scraped knees, the bedtime stories. She handled the world, and it worked. Our life was a carefully constructed masterpiece of suburban perfection. So when my fingers closed around that second phone, my first thought wasn't suspicion. It was confusion. Maybe it was an old one? A work phone I'd forgotten about? I pulled it out. It was a brand new model, identical to her personal one, but encased in a plain black cover. I pressed the side button. The screen lit up, no passcode required, displaying a wallpaper that was just a flat gray texture. There were only a handful of apps on the screen: a calculator, a notes app, a secure messaging client I didn't recognize, and a spreadsheet app. My heart started to thrum, a low, nervous beat in my chest. This felt secret. It felt wrong. I looked out the car window at our house, at the neatly manicured lawn and the big oak tree we'd hung a swing on. Everything looked exactly the same, but the air suddenly felt thin, fragile. I told myself I was being crazy. There was a simple explanation for this. There had to be. Sarah didn't have secrets. Our entire relationship was built on a foundation of radical honesty. We talked about everything, but I couldn't put it down. My curiosity was a physical itch, a burning need to know. I tapped on the Notes app. It was empty. I opened the messaging app, but it prompted me for a password I didn't have. My last option was the spreadsheet app. I held my breath and opened it. There was only one file, titled Nightingale. I opened it, and my world tilted on its axis. It was a ledger, columns of dates, numbers, and cryptic notes. The dates went back nearly 2 years. The numbers were large, ranging from $10,000 to $50,000. They were listed as withdrawals or transfers. Next to each entry was a memo. Initial seeding, Phase 2 infrastructure. It looked like a business plan, but the final column was what made the blood drain from my face. It was labeled Source, and next to every single entry was the same name: Miller Thompson Logistics, her family's company, my wife's company. I scrolled down, my hand shaking so badly I could barely control the screen. The numbers kept adding up: 100,000, $500,000. By the time I reached the bottom, the total was just over $2 million. A cold dread, heavy and suffocating, settled in my gut. This wasn't a business plan. This was embezzlement. My brilliant, successful wife was stealing from her own family. I stumbled out of the car and back into the house, the secret phone feeling like a lead weight in my pocket. I put the T-Rex on the counter and stared at Sarah's actual phone, the one with the picture of our kids as the lock screen. Who was this woman? The loving wife who made pancake breakfasts on Saturdays, or the calculating criminal who was methodically siphoning a fortune from her own parents. The two images were in my head, a dizzying, sickening paradox. This was cognitive dissonance in its purest form. My mind was screaming at me that something was deeply wrong, but my heart was desperately clinging to the woman I thought I knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to her in our bed, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest, and felt like I was lying next to a complete stranger. Every gentle sigh, every rustle of the sheets, felt like a lie. The next day, I decided I had to confront her. I couldn't live with this poison inside me. I waited until the kids were at my parents' for the afternoon. I sat her down in the living room, the perfect room with the neutral-toned furniture and the abstract art she'd picked out. I felt my hands tremble as I placed the black phone on the coffee table between us. "And I found this in your car, Sarah," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Her eyes flickered to the phone, and for a split second I saw it. A flash of pure, cold panic. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by a look of weary condescension. It was a look I was starting to recognize. "Alex, what is this? Were you snooping in my car?" Her tone was instantly accusatory, flipping the script so that I was the one on trial. Leo dropped his toy. It was under the seat. I opened the spreadsheet. "Sarah, Nightingale." She sighed, a long, theatrical exhalation, and shook her head as if I were a child who had just broken her favorite vase. "Oh, honey, you weren't supposed to find that. Not like this." "Supposed to find it?" I felt a surge of adrenaline. "You're stealing from your family's company. Over $1 million. She didn't flinch. Instead, she reached across the table and tried to take my hand. "It's not what you think," she said, her voice dropping to a low, soothing murmur. "Yes, it's money from the company. But it's for us. I've been putting it aside to start my own venture, something separate from my father's influence. A surprise. I was going to tell you when everything was ready. I wanted to build something that was truly ours." Her words were like a balm on a raw wound. They were exactly what I wanted to hear, that it was all a big, romantic misunderstanding, that she was doing this for us. The cognitive dissonance was roaring back. The evidence pointed to a crime. The woman I loved was telling me a beautiful story. "Why the secret phone? Why all the lies?" I asked, my voice pleading. "My father monitors everything, Alex. You know how he is. If he knew I was planning to break away, he would have shut it down. It had to be secret to protect it, to protect us." She looked me straight in the eye, her gaze unwavering. "I can't believe you'd think the worst of me, that you'd think I was some kind of criminal. After everything we've built, it hurts that you don't trust me." And there it was, gaslighting 101. In the space of 5 minutes she had twisted the narrative until I was the villain. I was the one who didn't trust. I was the one who was hurting her. I felt myself shrinking, the righteous anger draining away, replaced by a familiar shame. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was paranoid. I let her pull me into a hug. I breathed in her scent, that mix of expensive perfume and something that was just Sarah. And for a moment I let myself believe her. I wanted to believe her more than anything. But later that night, after she was asleep, I couldn't shake the image of that spreadsheet. It wasn't just the money, it was the name, Nightingale. It felt personal, specific. I quietly slipped out of bed, went to my office, and typed Nightingale meaning into a search engine. The first result was about the bird, known for its powerful and beautiful song. But then, I saw another result. In folklore, the nightingale often sings a song of love, but it's also a harbinger of death. A chill snaked its way down my spine. This wasn't a surprise. This was something else entirely. My wife was a brilliant actor, but her script had a hole in it. The next morning, with my heart hammering against my ribs, I did something I never thought I would do. I called David, her company's CFO, and a man who had known Sarah since she was a little girl. "David," I said, my voice tight. "It's Alex. I need to talk to you about something off the books." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear him breathing. "What is it, son?" "It's about a project called Nightingale." The silence that followed was the most terrifying sound I had ever heard. It stretched for an eternity. When David finally spoke, his voice was heavy, stripped of all its usual warmth. "Alex," he said slowly, "I need to meet, and you can't tell Sarah." The coffee shop David chose was a nondescript place halfway between Austin and his home. a neutral ground for a conversation that was about to detonate my life. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, looking 10 years older than he had the last time I'd seen him at the company Christmas party. He had a manila folder on the table in front of him. He didn't say hello, just gestured for me to sit down. "You were right to call me, Alex," he began, his voice low and grave. "I made sure something was wrong for about 6 months. Small accounting discrepancies. Numbers that didn't add up. We've been conducting a quiet internal audit." He pushed the folder toward me. "And so I think you need to see this." My hand trembled as I opened it. The first page was a printout of the same spreadsheet I had found, but it was more detailed. It had account numbers, routing information. The money wasn't sitting in a holding account for a surprise venture. It was being systematically funneled through a series of shell corporations, with the final destination being a private wealth management firm in Portland, Oregon. The next page was a private investigator's report. My breath hitched. There were photos. Photos of Sarah, laughing, walking hand in hand with another man on a street in Portland. A man I'd never seen before. He was handsome, rugged, the complete opposite of me. They looked happy, they looked like a couple. But the final page was the one that broke me. It was a copy of a birth certificate. A baby girl, born 18 months ago in Portland. The mother's name was listed as Sarah Miller. The father's name was Daniel Nightingale. "Nightingale isn't a project, Alex," David said, his voice full of a sorrow that somehow made it all worse. "It's a person, it's her other life." I just stared at the documents, unable to process the words. My mind was a maelstrom of confusion and white-hot pain. The life in Austin, our kids, our home, me, it was all a lie. A cover. I wasn't her partner, I was her alibi. The stay-at-home dad, the perfect, stable husband who provided a respectable front for her conservative family, while she used their money to fund a completely separate existence with the man she actually loved. Our children weren't the center of her world, they were props in the elaborate stage play of her life. For a moment I felt nothing but a vast, empty numbness. It was the feeling of learned helplessness, the paralyzing shock of realizing you have been utterly powerless, a pawn in someone else's cruel game. I wanted to curl up and disappear. But then, looking at David's grim, compassionate face, something else sparked to life inside me. A cold, hard anger. I wasn't going to be a victim. I wasn't going to let her burn my life to the ground and walk away into the sunset with her stolen money and her secret family. "And her secret family? Why do her parents know?" I asked, my voice raw. They know about the money," David said. "The affair, the other child. They don't know that part yet. Frank and Eleanor, this would destroy them. They want to handle this internally, avoid a public scandal, avoid the authorities. They're prepared to cut her off, but they need to do it cleanly." And that's when I saw it, my path forward. Her family's desire for secrecy was my leverage. My silence had a price. Not in money, but in justice. My revenge wouldn't be loud or explosive. It would be quiet, strategic, and absolute. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, and the voice that came out of me sounded like a stranger's. It was calm, cold, and utterly resolute. "You're going to have your lawyers draft a series of documents. First, an irrevocable postnuptial agreement. It will grant me the house, free and clear. It will establish a trust for Leo and Maya, funded with a portion of the money Sarah stole, enough to secure their entire future. It will also stipulate that I get sole physical and legal custody. Her visitation will be supervised and at my complete discretion." David listened, nodding slowly. "And she'll fight it, Alex. She's a narcissist. She won't give up control." "She won't have a choice," I said, my eyes locking onto the photo of her and Daniel Nightingale. "Because the second document will be a confession, drafted by you, detailing every dollar she embezzled. And the third will be this." I tapped the PI report. "A divorce filing citing adultery, with copies of these photos and that birth certificate. I will give her 2 options. She can sign the postnup, walk away quietly, and we tell her parents it was an amicable split caused by my discovery of the theft. Or I can refuse to sign, and this folder goes directly to her father, and then to the Travis County District Attorney. It was the ultimate checkmate. To save face, she would have to give me everything. To avoid prison, she would have to surrender her life here. The choice was hers, but the outcome was mine." I went home that afternoon and moved with a purpose I hadn't felt in years. I packed a bag for myself and the kids. I gathered all of our essential documents. I felt like I was clearing away the debris after a hurricane. By the time Sarah came home, I was waiting for her in the living room, the same room where she had gaslit me into believing her fantasy. This time, there was no secret phone on the coffee table. There was David's manila folder. She walked in, smiling, kicking off her heels. "Hey honey, rough day with the..." She stopped when she saw my face. The smile vanished. I didn't say a word. I just opened the folder and laid the contents out on the table, one by one. The spreadsheet. The photos of her and Daniel. The birth certificate of their child. I watched her face as she processed what she was seeing. The mask of the perfect wife didn't just crack, it disintegrated. I saw the real Sarah then. Not the warm, loving woman I thought I'd married, but a cornered animal. Her eyes darted around, searching for an escape route, a new lie, another angle to play. "Alex, I can explain," she started. Her voice a desperate, pathetic whimper. "And no," I said, cutting her off. My voice was devoid of emotion. "There will be no more explaining, there will be no more lies." This was it, the ultimate boundary. I was no longer a participant in her drama, I was the director. I laid out the terms, exactly as I had with David. The house, the kids, the trust, the silence. I told her the lawyers were waiting. I explained her two choices: sign the papers and disappear, or face her father and the law. She stared at me, her expression shifting from panic to disbelief. And then to a venomous rage. "And then to a venomous rage," she hissed. "Ha, they're my children. This is my house." "No," I replied, standing up. "And you are no longer welcome here. You have 1 hour to pack a bag and leave. A courier will deliver the papers to your hotel in the morning. You will sign them, or I will burn your entire world to the ground. Your real world in Portland." She looked at me, truly seeing me for the first time, not as her compliant stay-at-home husband, but as the man who held her future in his hands. And she knew she had lost. She left without another word. The following day, the signed documents arrived at my lawyer's office. It's been 6 months now. The silence in this big, perfect house can be deafening at times. There are days when the ghost of the life I thought I had haunts me. But then I look at Leo and Maya, laughing as they play on the swing in the backyard, and I know I did the right thing. Their trust is funded, their future is secure, and their lives are free from the poison of their mother's deceptions. I'm no longer just a stay-at-home dad, I'm rebuilding. I'm consulting for a few small tech companies, working from the home office that used to feel like my cage but now feels like my command center. I'm not just a victim. I'm the architect of my own survival. Sarah didn't just betray me, she awakened a part of me I didn't know existed, a part that is strong, resilient, and will never ever be anyone's fool again. I'm finally building a life that is truly ours. And this time, it's real.